Do you have a business budget and a household budget? If you don't, you are asking for trouble, because a budget is necessary to safeguard your cash flow and to save you from impulsive spending. Now, it's financial year end and we are working on our budgets for the coming year, just as with every other company. But I also work on my household budget to make sure that everything that we're going to need is budgeted for. And not just that, but we have an upper limit to the amount of money we're going to spend. Now, whether you are working for somebody or you have your own business, in both scenarios, you are receiving a salary. And I hope those of you who are running a business, that you are giving yourself a salary from that business and you're not using the business as your own piggy bank. That's the worst thing you can do. So stipulate a salary for yourself and come up with a budget so that you live within that salary. So you're not spending willy-nilly, you're not spending impulsively. Now, when you look at the financials of many small businesses, it's horrific. It's horrific the amount of money they spend impulsively without really thinking it through. So they spend money on equipment and staff salaries and on software, whatever other things are out there. And come year end, they find that they don't have enough cash flow. And no cash flow means the death of a business, because cash flow is the blood of your business. So make sure you have a budget. Make sure your business has a budget. Make sure you think it through very, very carefully. And I'm not saying starve your business. I mean, you have to spend money to make money, but spend money within a budget so that your cash flow is not affected. And even at home, to have enough money to save for a rainy day, work within a budget. I promise you, it will be difficult at first, but ultimately you will train yourself and your family to live within that budget, and it will be an absolute pleasure. You'll never run into a situation where before the end of the month, you don't have any cash flow left. So just keep that in mind. A budget is critically important, and you can make the budget anyhow you want. You don't need any special software for that. You can use pencil and paper. You can use Microsoft Excel. I'm actually going to show you how to use Microsoft Excel to make a budget for your business or for your home. Okay, so we have a blank Excel spreadsheet in front of us, and we're going to start building out our budget. Now, the budget is going to have three sections: income, expenses, and summary. So I'm going to start with the income part of it. So we're going to put it up here in all caps, right? We select that. Let's make this a bit bigger. Let's make it to 16 point, make it a little bold, because as much as you're making a budget, let's be professional about it. Let's make it look smart. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to merge these four cells. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because there are 4 columns, right, that I'm going to need in this budget. So I'm going to merge these 4 cells and make them into one cell. So you find the merge and what's it called? The merge and center button here. Good? Right. Now, next thing you're going to do is you're going to make 4 columns. So column 1, income. Column 2, budget. Column 3 will be your actual amount that you are spending, and column 4 is the difference. Did I spell that correctly? Yeah, that's spelled correctly. Now you can see these columns are not the ideal width. So what you do is you go to that spot between the A and B, and then you expand the column width, and you see it looks a lot better. But we will adjust these later on. Now let's give this some color, right? So we'll select this this row, and we'll give it a background color. Let's give it a lovely green. But when you do that, then the black writing is not clearly visible. So you simply select that and choose a color. I'm going to choose white, right? And let's make it bold and see how it looks. It looks okay, right? Always do things in style. Now, I don't like this difference being cut off there, so I just widen that column, widen each column. Now you can give it a specific number width, but we're gonna rush through things here. But now, okay. So what is the typical income of a family. So the most common income source is salaries, right? And then you have dividends. So for example, if you've invested in shares somewhere, you'll be getting dividends. Perhaps a gift, how nice to receive financial gifts. And let's say you've got some other income that we won't classify right now. So we'll put that as other. Now what you're going to do is, in each of these columns, you're going to put in a different amount. Okay, so let's say you're getting a salary of 25,000. Now that looks like a number, but it doesn't look like currency, right? So let's change this. We'll select all the columns or all the cells where your numbers are going to go, and we go to this general tab and we select currency. See, now it shows you this in current. Now my current currency is set at South African rands, hence you're getting the R symbol there. You can go into settings of Excel and change it to whatever currency symbol you want, US dollars, euro, pounds, whatever it is, Turkish liras, you name it. Okay, so say you're getting 4,000 rands a month in dividends. You got a gift of 500 rands from somewhere, maybe a gift voucher, and some other miscellaneous income. Maybe you went to visit your mom and she gave you 250 rands. Good. So that is your budget for this month. Basically, your income for this month, right? Now, as far as actual and difference, we won't need these columns here right now, because here we are just doing our income. These are going to be needed lower down. Now let's sum all this up. So we'll call this total income, right? Let's make this a bit smarter looking, make it bold, and then we'll use the align button to align it to the right. And then let's give it a line above. So we select this entire row and we go to this button here, the line row, and we'll give it a border, a top border. How's that? The next thing we're going to do is to add this up. That's very easy to do. So you just select the cell where the total is going to go. As long as the numbers are directly above the cell and there's no spaces in between and there's no text in between. So we select it and then we go to this button here, the summation button, right? So you click on that and look there, it gives you the formula. The formula says sum B3 to B6, and it's highlighted the relevant columns, cells rather, in this dashed line. Beautiful, that's what we want. Hit enter and there's your income for the month. So we've got the first part of our spreadsheet sorted. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a section for the expenses in your spreadsheet, your budget spreadsheet. So the expenses part will look similar to the income part, except that it will reflect your expenses. Now we'll start by highlighting these 4 cells and we'll merge them, right? So we'll merge and center just as we did with income. So we'll copy and paste the word income from the top to the bottom just so we get the formatting, and then we double click on the text, change that to expenses. See now how it took the same style as the income. Now the reason I'm doing it like this, I'm showing you how I'm actually building up this budget with Excel, is I want you to learn Excel as well as budgeting, because Excel is a very, very handy tool to know and learn as a business. And nowadays, if you have a cell phone or a tablet, you've got Excel on those as well. So it's so easily accessible. And if you can't afford the Excel license, then you can use one of the free options like OpenOffice. Okay, so now let's put in the column headings for your expenses section, right? Just like we did with the, as you can see, with the income, we'll do the same now with the expenses, right? Now, what are we going to do? We're going to type in, whoops, not income, typing in the wrong thing here. We'll type in expenses, again, your budget, your actual, and then the difference, right? The variance. So let's make it a little fancy, just like we did above. We'll give it a background color. Let's go with blue this time, and white text, right? Make it bold, and there, look, it looks beautiful. Now in this section is where you're going to see we're going to start putting in all our expenses. Let's start putting in these expenses. Now remember, when you're working these out at work, you will work with your team to put these together, and at home with your family. You need to be very careful about that. Okay, let's dive into it, right? So you'll put in your expense items like your mortgage and rent, your electricity, your water, your rates, phone bill, your internet expenses, which is necessary these days, some maintenance, maybe household maintenance. Then there are other things that you should factor in also, like savings. Make sure that savings is budgeted. And also, we all need to go on holidays. Put something aside every month for your holidays, and then something for medical, right? Either medical, you're going to pay cash, or medical insurance, or what we call in South Africa, medical aid. Right. Now, we're going to start putting in the actual amount. Now, this is going to be interesting, right? So we're going to put in the numbers. So let's say your rent is 7,500, right? So now you'll see that the 7,500 is not formatted as currency. So we're going to select all of these and go to general and choose currency. So you see that 7,500 is showing up as South African rands. Now let's say your actual is, meaning what you actually spent was 7,500. Now we're going to work out the difference between the two to tell you whether what you budgeted and what you spent is the same, or did you spend more or less than what you had budgeted. Now to do this, we type in equals, which tells Excel that there's a formula coming up here, right? As you can see. Then you point at the first number in that sum, which is the budget. So you click on it and see what happens. You get B11. Now what does B11 means? It means that this is in column B, row 11, right? And then you put in the minus sign, and then you click on the second amount. Point and click, that's how simple it is. And when you're done, you hit enter, and that's your answer, 0. What does it mean? And I'll show you what it means. Let's say in 1 month, your rent came 500 Rand less. Maybe your landlord was feeling particularly generous that month. So he said, okay, I'm giving you a budget of, or I'm giving you a discount. So your rent comes to 7,000 Rands. Look what happens to the difference. It goes from 0 to 500 Rands. What does that mean? It means that you've got a 500 Rand saving. But let's leave it at 7,500. Now what you're going to need to do is very carefully think about all the amounts and start putting them in here. Now remember, in your budget, it's always better to overestimate than underestimate. Now let me give you an example. Let's say you overestimated your maintenance to 1,000 Rands, but you notice that month after month, your maintenance is actually coming to consistently to 700 Rands every month. Now, what's going to happen? The difference is going to be 300 Rands. What does this mean? It means that you got to have a saving every month of 300 Rands, which you can choose to either spend or put into your savings, or a bit of both. Save some, spend some. Okay, so now we've got the calculation under the mortgage and rent in that first cell there. But when we put in the numbers here, you'll see that nothing happened. So how do we drag that? How do we get that same formula across that entire column? Now I'm going to show you how to do that. But before I do that, let's just add the row for the total, because that will show us where this table actually ends. So we type in total expenses. Let's format that, basically make it bold and right aligned, give it a line above, and there we go. Right. So everything from the top there right to the bottom here, we want it to have that formula, basically a budget minus actual. So what you do, the easy way to do this is to click on the cell, you'll see the border, and then you'll see there's this little black square there, and when you hover the cursor over it, it becomes a black plus sign or a black cross. You click on that little black box, and you start dragging downwards. You drag down right to where you want to stop. Now see what happens here. As you drag down, you're actually replicating that formula in the subsequent cells. Now see what happens, 300 rands. You've got the correct answer there. Okay, now let's start adding more numbers here. Let's say your electricity bill comes to 3,000 rands. And let's now put this to test. Let's say in 1 month your electricity bill goes up and you have to pay 3,200. See what happens now in the actuals? You see that it shows you a negative number, minus 200. Now what does that mean? A negative number means that you went over budget. So you basically ate into your savings from the previous month, or you had to find that money from somewhere. Right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add this entire column. Right. So to do that, you simply you click on the summation button. But look, something went wrong here, right? Because there are empty spaces. So that's not going to work. We're going to use another way to do this. How do we do this? Very simple. You select all the cells that you want to total up, and then you go and hit the summation button, the addition total button. Oops, I made a mistake. You know what mistake I made? I forgot to include the cell where the answer is going to go. So let's start again. Select all the cells, including the total cell, and you hit the summation button. See what happens? It adds up all the numbers there, and if there are blanks, no problem, Excel will ignore those. Now let's add another number to see what happens. Let's say your water bill comes to 1,200 and the actual comes to 1,200. Look at the total, it just went up. So as you add more numbers here, the total will go up. Now you can do the same thing here in this column. You can select all of these cells, hit the sum button, and you've got your answer there. And then finally, you can add the difference column. What are you going to get here? Now this is very important, because that number will either be a positive number, a 0, or a negative number. If it's a positive number, it means congratulations, you've saved some money. If it's a negative number, it means you went over budget. And if it's a 0, it means you just broke even. So this is how you will do your expenses. There's one more thing, one more step to do here, which is to put everything together now and to get a summary of these two tables. We'll look at that in the next video. Now, in this last video in the series, we are going to create a third table, which is going to be basically the summary of your income and expenses. Very simple. Let's get started. Right? So just as we did before, we will select these 4 cells here, and we will merge them. I'm going to copy this text from there and paste it there, just because I'm lazy. I'm just too lazy to reformat them according to income and expenses. So we're going to call this 1. We'll change that. So see what I'm doing now. Instead of double clicking on the actual cell, I've clicked in the formula bar. So you can edit the text in either place. Double click on the cell or edit in the formula bar. And I'm going to call this one summary. Simple. See there? I just type in the text and the formatting is already there. Now, just as we did before, we're gonna type in here budget summary, and then we're gonna go type in the word budget, and then actual, and then difference. This is the simplest budget, and yet it's so effective. It works for me in my business, it works for me at home. Okay, let's give this some color. So we've done green and blue. Let's go with gray. Not my favorite color, but I don't want to spend too much of time on just designing things. Okay, so what goes here now? What you're going to type here is your total income and, of course, total expenses. Right. So let's look at your budget. Now, instead of typing text in here or numbers in here, you are going to use a formula to bring in the numbers, right? So what was your actual budget, the actual amount that you had budgeted, or your actual income that you had expected? It's this amount here. So what we're going to do is, rather than typing that number in here, we're going to bring it down with a formula. So you click on equals to, and then you click on that number. Remember, it's on column B, row 7. Click on it. Don't forget to click. And see what happens? The cell shows up, B7, and you hit enter. See what happens? That number from there appears here. And this is a dynamic link. So what it means is, if your income changes, let's say you get a 1,000 Rand raise, right? So you go from 25 to 26,000. Now your total is going to go to 30,750. But look at there now, that also changed to 30,750. So what do we do next? We bring in all the other values, right? So you go to expenses, there's your expense there. It needs to go in there. So you hit equals, click on the expenses total and enter. Now you know that as you add and remove expenses, this is going to change. So then you go to your actual, you click on equals there, select that one, click on it, and that number is added. Now because it's 0 at this point, we didn't add anything. Now actual could mean that, you know, there was a change. Something above or below your budget happened to your income. So let me give you an example, right? Let's say you had budgeted these amounts every month, and in 1 month suddenly you won a competition and you got 500 rands extra. So now the actual would be different. Or let's say your company gave you a 500 rand bonus, right? So the actual would change, and that actual may or may not be the same as here. We'll do the same here with your expenses. We go to where the number needs to go, hit equals to, click on the number we need, and hit enter. So the number comes across. And then finally, we're going to bring across the differences. Now you can do this in one of two ways, right? You can do a subtraction here, or you can bring in the amounts from that cell and from that cell. It's your choice. I don't know if there are any pros and cons of that, but you could do it either ways. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the cell values down from the difference totals, right? So equals, difference of income budgeted versus actual, there we go, is 0. Difference of expenses, actual versus budgeted, equals, click there, hit enter, there we go. So all told, you've got your summary of all your income, all your expenses, and the variance, the difference. And this is what's going to tell you whether you are running at a loss or you are sticking to your budget. All right, so with that, we will conclude this video series. I hope you found it enjoyable, and more importantly, I hope you're going to put it into practice and set up a budget for home and for business. Looking forward to your comments.